What's going on, my soul family? Welcome to another episode of the Awake with Jake show. On today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 ways in which you can heal and let go of the past. Finally, once and for all, we're going to let this go. And at the end of the 5 ways, I'm going to share with you a guided meditation to cutting energetic cords and healing your past. Just a little background on letting go of the past and attachment. These are all things that I've struggled with a lot in my life. And I've discovered that the root of my pain and suffering came from the attachment that I had to my mother. And I developed this attachment towards my mom because my dad was very emotionally unavailable and very abusive. So because of all of the pain that I was going through with my dad, my mother kind of coddled me. Right? And I developed this deep attachment to my mom. And when I didn't get what I wanted, I would just cry and cry and cry to get attention to then get what I wanted eventually. So I was using this attachment that I had and the fear of being abandoned by my mother, by my father, in relationships. I brought these wounds into relationships with me, intimate relationships, and I noticed these patterns that I was so afraid to be left because of the heavy attachment that I had towards my mom. So when I started practicing these different ways of letting go of the past, it took a while. So if you're trying to heal your past, please understand that it is a shedding process, okay? Many layers of pain and trauma have to be peeled away in order for you to further ascend in consciousness and feel good again. But it is possible. I promise you, it is possible. So for the first way, identify what you need to release from your life. So if you're still holding on to resentment or hatred toward a past lover, so to speak, or maybe a boss or somebody that you just don't like or hated from your past, you have to identify that person, that experience. Maybe it was from being bullied when you were 6 years old or 8 years old. Whatever happened, you have to identify that experience. Go back into the memory, feel into it, and allow yourself to bring awareness to it, okay? With awareness, we can heal. The first step in any form of healing is having awareness of it, okay? Because if you had a knife right now jammed in your rib cage and you couldn't see it or you couldn't even feel it, how would you possibly remove it? You wouldn't. So the awareness brings the intention, right, and the energy into the space that needs to be healed, that needs to be released. The second thing is make the commitment to your healing. Make the commitment to letting it go, okay? By giving yourself permission to release the past. By literally saying the words out loud, I give myself permission to let go of what no longer serves me. Say it with me. I give myself permission to let go of what no longer serves my highest good. You are allowed to let go of the past. Why? Partially because it's not even real, okay? The past is a collection of thoughts that is in your mind that you just so strongly believe. It's not real. So you're holding on to the illusion. And if you really think about suffering, when do you suffer? Well, when you live in time. You suffer when you live in time, meaning you're living in the past or you're living in the future. You're worried about the future, you're worried about what's to come, or you're angry at the past, or you're resentful towards the past. So make the commitment by giving yourself permission to pull these hooks out of your heart, out of your soul, and heal yourself. Number 3, forgive anyone who has hurt you. When you forgive other people, you start cutting that cord, right? Like a saw going through wood. You start cutting that cord between you and that person. But the first thing that you think about when you forgive, you're like, well, I can't just forget about what happened. Forgiving is not necessarily about forgetting. It's about an act of self-love. It's an act of compassion. Right? Because when you hate someone, when you're resenting someone, what are you doing? You're over there drinking the toxic poison. Even subconsciously, all these thoughts that are just stored so deep within you. right? So forgiveness starts to peel back the layers. Forgiveness says, you may have hurt me, but I'm choosing to be compassionate. I'm choosing to be conscious. I'm choosing to look at you as another soul. I'm choosing to look at you as a reflection of my own soul. So if you start seeing everyone as a reflection of your own soul and you drop the personality, the body types, and the ego identities, and you go into soul consciousness, then why wouldn't you forgive one of your brothers or sisters? If you started looking at everyone on this planet as a brother and sister of yours, you would forgive them, right? I have hated my father and my sister specifically in this life so bad to the point that I have wished many times them to be dead, okay? That's how bad I've hated them. I have found it in my spiritual heart, in my intuitive heart, to forgive them, okay? Why did I do that? Well, I can tell you right now, my ego didn't want me to do that. The ego was like, no, don't forgive them. Why would you forgive them, Jake? They hurt you. Should you really forgive them? Well, when I awakened, I realized that forgiveness toward another person is compassion. And when you forgive people, it's like you're dropping the anchors. Like if you were in the middle of a lake, right? And you were floating around in this boat, you have all these anchors dropped down. Each anchor is a line of abandonment, a line of neglect, a line of hatred, a line of resentment. You have all these anchors anchoring you down where you stay stuck. What forgiveness does is it pulls out this kind of sword, this sword of healing, and you start cutting these anchors off your boat. Maybe it was your father that abandoned you. Or maybe it was your ex-lover that really hurt you, really broke your heart. By bringing them into your heart energetically and saying to them, closing your eyes, I forgive you. And that's what we're going to do in this meditation at the end of this episode. I forgive you. I'm choosing to forgive you because I'm choosing to love myself. And the other person that you get to forgive is you. Because no one is harder on you than you are. No one abuses you more than you abuse yourself. So forgive yourself for being so hard on you, for not having it all figured out, for not being perfect. Be a little more gentle with yourself. Be a little more loving and compassionate toward yourself. Turn that love inward that you give to everyone else around you and watch how your life just amplifies with abundance. And everyone around you will benefit too. Because when you love yourself, you vibrate in a frequency of love. So then you're pouring out this love out of you. Your cup is so filled with love, it's just overflowing. Now you have an abundance of love. But if you're still busy holding on to hate, pain, anger, hurt, then you don't have that love to give. Number 4, feel your pain and your hurt. Okay, we live in a society that is conditioned to repress our feelings. Crying makes you weak, showing emotions make you bad, expressing yourself makes you really weird and awkward and weak. We live in this kind of strong upper lip mentality. Stay strong. Remain strong, right? Keep your chin up. But I invite you to feel your feelings. I invite you to be with your hurt. I invite you to allow yourself to grieve, okay? Because after everything painful that happens in our life, there is a grievance period, right? So let's say you went through a really hard breakup and maybe you just jumped into another relationship and you didn't allow yourself to grieve. That pain is going to go dormant for a while, and then it's going to be brought back up at some point in that relationship, most likely. I've seen this happen in my own personal life and with all the clients I've worked with. When you just repress the pain from a previous lover, from abandonment wounds from your childhood, or your mother, your father hurt you from your childhood, when you repress that pain, energetically it gets stored within your system, okay? So it just goes dormant. It doesn't go away, it just goes dormant. It doesn't get released. So by allowing yourself to feel your feelings, literally giving yourself permission to feel your feelings, saying the words, I give myself permission to feel my feelings. I remember a time I went through a really hard time, a really bad breakup. And I literally moved into the mountains of California, 3,000 miles away from home, and would literally just go into the mountains every single day for 4 or 5 hours a day on a 10-mile hike. Just walk, talk, cry, and release. Walk, talk, cry, and release. And I did this for a period of 6 months. Okay, just pulling up all this stuff from my childhood, from my teenage years, from the abuse, from the bullying, all of this. And I allowed myself to grieve. I allowed myself to heal myself. Self-healing is beautiful. Any type of healing is beautiful. Whether you're working with a mentor or a healer or just doing the work on yourself, doing the inner work, it's all beautiful. There's nothing wrong with being weak or showing emotions, okay? We all have these emotions. Most of us have just repressed them. I'm inviting you to go into your heart and feel your feelings, because if you can feel it, you can heal it. Number 5, lastly, is focus on being in the present moment. And I touched on this a little bit earlier in the video, but realize that this present moment is all that exists, okay? When you live in the past, when you live in the future, and you're not fully present, not only are you missing out on this beautiful present moment, this eternal present moment, but you are also creating pain and suffering. Because with time, everything suffers, right? Look at it like aging, okay? Aging is a perfect thing. The body is dying. We have to accept that. It lives in time. Everything in this universe, almost everything, is temporary, right? So energetically, the one thing that goes on is the soul's vibration. So when you live in the third dimension of time and physical matter and reality, you will suffer. But when you allow yourself to transcend beyond that and go into the higher dimensions of consciousness, then you realize that this present moment is all we have. So why am I worried about the past? If the past doesn't exist, why am I worried about it? It would be like getting a bill that you never really got, but you're worried about it. Think about that for a second. It would be like getting a bill that you never really got, but you're worried about paying it. But you never got the bill in the first place. In the past is the same way. The only way it exists, once again, the same way that bill would exist, is in your mind, in the thought forms.